In a packed courtroom, Officer Daniel Hayes sat confidently on the witness stand, spinning a story about how the defendant, a black man named Marcus Reed, had resisted arrest and acted suspiciously during a routine traffic stop. His words dripped with arrogance, knowing that the system usually sided with officers like him. Marcus, dressed in a plain gray suit, sat at the defendant's table, his expression calm. He listened carefully, his fingers lightly tapping the desk as Officer Hayes continued his lies. The judge, an older man with silver hair and a skeptical frown, observed the scene but showed no reaction. The prosecutor smirked, thinking this case was already won. After all, Marcus was representing himself. No lawyer, no fancy defense team, just a man standing against the word of a decorated police officer. When it was finally Marcus's turn to speak, he stood up and walked to the center of the courtroom with an air of quiet confidence. He adjusted his tie and then turned to Hayes. "Officer Hayes, you testified under oath that I resisted arrest, correct?" Marcus asked. Hayes scoffed. "That's right. You were aggressive and tried to run. I had to use force to restrain you." Marcus nodded and walked over to the evidence table. He picked up a thick folder and flipped through a few pages before holding up a document. "Your body cam footage, officer. It was released as evidence." Hayes swallowed hard. The courtroom was silent. The prosecutor's smirk faded. Marcus continued. "Would you care to explain why, in the video, I was fully cooperative, had both hands on the wheel, and did not at any point resist arrest?" Hayes fidgeted in his seat. "Well, the footage might not capture everything." Marcus cut him off, his voice steady. "You also claimed that I had a broken taillight, which was your probable cause for pulling me over. Yet the footage shows my lights fully functional. Are you saying the evidence is wrong, Officer Hayes?" The officer's face turned red. The judge leaned forward, suddenly more interested in the case than before. Marcus wasn't done. He walked up to the judge's bench and handed over another document. "Your Honor, this is a full transcript of Officer Hayes's prior complaints. Multiple cases of racial profiling, excessive force, and misconduct, all swept under the rug. And yet, he is testifying as a credible witness today." Gas rippled through the courtroom. The prosecutor shifted uncomfortably, realizing this case was crumbling. Then Marcus reached into his briefcase and pulled out one final document. He turned to the jury, then to the judge, and held it up. "For the record, I hold a Juris Doctor degree from Harvard Law. I have been a practicing attorney for 10 years and am a professor of criminal law." Silence. Officer Hayes paled. The judge blinked in shock. The prosecutor dropped his pen. Marcus smiled. "I may have come here as a defendant today, but I leave here as a man who has exposed the truth. I demand that this case be dismissed immediately, and that Officer Hayes be investigated for perjury and misconduct." The judge cleared his throat and glanced at the prosecutor, who could barely meet his gaze. With a heavy sigh, the judge spoke. "Case dismissed." The courtroom erupted into murmurs. Hayes sat frozen, realizing his career might be over. Marcus gathered his papers, nodded politely to the judge, and walked out of the courtroom with his head held high. Justice had been served.